Hi students, and welcome to the very final session for Ensure Team Effectiveness. This is our assessment support workshop. So this session is dedicated to taking you through the two assessment tasks that you'll find on this subject, Ensure Team Effectiveness. By the end of this webinar, you'll have all the information that you need to successfully submit your two assessment tasks for this unit and therefore have completed this particular subject, Ensure Team Effectiveness. Thanks for joining us today. This should be a really quick session today. I'll take you through both of those two assessments. So let's open up the very first one for Ensure Team Effectiveness. And that's assessment task number 1. Let's open that up. So the first assessment task is a nice one. There's a video there for you guys to watch. Now the video takes about, I think, 1 hour to play through. It's a case study of a fruit shop, and I'll read you through. But in this scenario, Mary is brought in as an external business consultant to help an ailing greengrocer business called Foster's. The team in question consists of 3 sisters. So this is what you'll find when you watch this. Will consist of 3 sisters who jointly own the business. So watch this clip. My suggestion is for you guys is to pause and play and pause and play. Feel free to watch it through once and then come back. There's a series of questions for you guys to answer. So you may wish to take notes as you're watching it, or pause and play depending on what works for you. What you need to do to complete this assessment task is just answer, for the first part anyway, is to answer these 13 questions. So watch the video and answer these 13 questions. This is part 1. Copy these questions into a Microsoft Word document, I would, and then just place your answers to each question underneath. That's probably the best way to go about doing it. So here are the questions. First question is, how does Mary, who's the consultant, initially communicate with the team and try to establish the context, team dynamics, and existing processes of Foster? So look for the sort of questions that she's asking to gain that initial understanding. The cool thing about this, guys, is that the questions are sequential. So as you're watching it, you can actually answer each question in order, because the questions are actually there to match the order of the video. So what issues are uncovered within the team after that initial meeting? So here I just want you to list the range of issues that are discovered in that meeting. How do these issues affect the broader business? So how are those issues that you've just discovered in question 2 affecting the overall business? What is Mary's initial advice to the team? You'll see that there. How do team members react to Mary's business advice? You'll see there's a range of, actually the members were quite upset, so have a chat about that. How does Mary justify her straightforward communication style to the team? So look out for that one. How does Mary and the team go about getting advice from external stakeholders to improve the business? So have a look and see how they do that. What strategies does Mary implement to ensure team members in the planning, decision making, and daily running the shop, and how will they improve their business? So how does Mary get everybody to work together to plan and make decisions about the daily running of the shop? How does Mary, and so with that previous question, there's actually a lot of answers that can go into something. I've listed about 20 or 30 different things that Mary does to, what are the things that Mary does to change the way that the team are actually working well together? So this is between question 8 and question 9. How does Mary facilitate more effective teamwork? So what I'm sort of looking for here, so this question 8 is, what are the things that Mary's implementing and doing? They're the actual things. Question 9, what I'm really looking for here is, what are some of the leadership skills that Mary is using to facilitate more teamwork between the team? So if you have a look in your learning materials, there's information on leadership skill and practice there. What I'm looking for here is, what are those leadership skills that Mary is using to really get that more effective teamwork between the staff? Question 10, what barriers do you see that may get in the way of progress and a cohesive team, and how are they overcome? So there's a few issues that still remain. Talk through those issues. Question 11, how does Mary mentor and coach the team to improve their teamwork skills and business practice? Some of these things you might have already touched on in previous answers. You might feel there's a little double up. That's okay. Question 12, how are these issues resolved within the team during this scenario? How does Mary gain consensus among the team regarding business decisions? And the last question, question 13, how does Mary facilitate engagement with stakeholders in this scenario? That's it, guys. So again, it's all sequential. You can actually, while you're watching it, you can actually just take notes and answer the questions as you go, or you might find it more comfortable to just to watch it and take it all in as a whole, and then go back and start feeding in your answers, whichever way you feel is going to work for you. That's fine. When you're submitting your work, just put each question and put your answers, or put the number 1 and put your answer to each question underneath. Part 2, it's what we call our extended written response. We're looking for 500 words in part 2. We want you to consider the 4 stages of team development, that being forming, storming, norming, and performing. So ideally for this one, we want you to define each stage and actually refer or explain how each stage relates to this particular example. So you'll need to briefly express each of the, or define each of those stages, but explain how each stage relates to the team and their behavior in this scenario. So we want you to contextualize your understanding of those stages of team development. Go back to the resource support session workshop number 3. So watch the 3rd webinar in this set. Alyssa and I take you through a really nice explanation on those 4 stages of team development, what's actually happening in those stages. We need you to then place your understanding and then express what's actually happening in this particular scenario as well in relation to those 4 stages. That's the first assessment task. Okay, for your second assessment task, you've got a role play. This is the final assessment task for the subject Ensure Team Effectiveness, and this task is designed to enable you to demonstrate your teamwork and communication skills. It's divided into 3 parts. In the first part, you'll work in consultation to resolve a problem presented in this scenario that I'll read out for you. Part 2, you're going to role play that scenario and record a dialogue. And in part 3, you're going to provide a reflection, a written individual reflection on what you've just done. So I'm just going to read through this particular scenario, which is our scenario for this assessment task. So here's the scenario. You work at a design and marketing agency where your manager has put you in charge of a newly formed team of 4. You and the team are responsible for developing the branding and marketing for a new business who have approached your agency. Okay, so you are an agency, you're a marketing agency, a design and marketing agency. You're now in charge of a new team of 4 people. You're going to be responsible for developing the branding and marketing for a brand new business who have approached your agency. So you're in charge of this little mini project team, if you like. Tom is in charge of designing the client's website. He's had an initial meeting with the business owners and has a good idea of their company's vision and the look that they want for their site, for their new website. Tom needs to work really closely with Alice. Now, Alice is in charge of sales and marketing for the product. There's been some conflict between Tom and Alice regarding the business branding. Whilst there's been an overall decision on the logo, colors, and fonts to be used, they disagree on how the website should actually look. Alice needs to develop hard copy promotional material, that's business cards, flyers, advertisements, and therefore she's concerned primarily with the sales aspect of the business setup. She has strong ideas about what should appear on the business's digital and paper-based material and would like to reserve some of the website's screen space for advertising from a potential sponsor. Now, Tom wants to ensure that the client's vision is maintained and the website is easy to navigate as well as visually appealing. He strongly opposes any advertising appearing on the screen, even though it would mean a much needed cash injection into the business and raise its profile. The 2 team members have not been able to reach an agreement and consequently the project is stalling. Your manager isn't happy the team's slow progress means that you're behind in your timelines, the manager instructs you to call a meeting to resolve the issue and get the project back on track so that you'll have something to present to the client at your next meeting in 1 week's time. That's the scenario. Here's what we want you to do. The first part is, as we said, it's a consultation of the issues. Now, at some point in time, this assessment was set up to be used for both in class and for students that are in an online environment. Given that you guys listening to this webinar are all the online students of mine, you're going to need to coordinate with myself or your trainer. If you're whoever your trainer, it might be Alison, Alyssa, Sil, so forth. There's a range of trainers that we have here. You'll need to coordinate with your trainer a time to have a conversation, have a chat. So what you're going to do is you're going to coordinate a time with your trainer. If that's me, it'll be myself. Us trainers are going to act as team members, other members of the team. And we're going to have a bit of a chat about how to resolve some of these issues that we find here in this particular scenario. So the conversation will happen over the phone. So me, if it's going to be myself, I'm going to be acting as another staff member to consult with you over the issues. So we're going to be effectively both equals in the business. We're going to be talking about some of the issues that we've got here. The table below is what we're going to be using as a guide for responses for the conversation that we're going to have in consultation. So between yourself and myself, we're going to be answering these questions. These are the points that we're going to be considering in this first part when we're sort of brainstorming the ideas. And this is effectively what we're trying to do here. We're trying to just work through some of the actual issues that we have here, brainstorm them. So here are the points that you need to consider. What are each of the team members' responsibilities? What are they accountable for? How will you show support to each team member to achieve the project goals? What procedure will you implement to ensure the project stays on track? What processes will you implement to ensure that issues, concerns, problems identified are recognized and addressed? As a manager, now you are the manager of this group. You're effectively the team leader of this group. So how will you ensure that you're going to be the role model that you need to be to your team, and to portray your company into a good light to the client? How will you communicate your manager's instructions to the team clearly, or effectively, how are you going to communicate your own instructions to the team clearly? What planning and organizing skills will you use and encourage team members to use to keep focused on the tasks at hand? So you need to answer these questions. By the end, you'll have a chat with me. I'm going to be another member of staff. We're going to be consulting over these issues. And if you go back to the front page, you'll see there's a part 1 ideas checklist. If you actually open this up, these are the questions here that we've just read through. So when you're submitting your work, you'll be putting your answers, ideas that you might have, answers and resolutions to these questions, you'll be putting them in here and submitting that as part of your part 1 for your assessment. So that's the first part. Part 2 is a communication skills role play. So working from the solutions and ideas that you've just developed in part 1, we want you to role play the manager in this scenario. So we want you to actually record a conversation using family, using friends, to act as those team members. So the 2 team members that we have in question here, which are Alice and Tom. So use those ideas that you've just generated in consultation with your trainer, myself, or whoever else, to give those team members constructive feedback and advice to resolve the conflict that's been outlined. And there's an example here. So for example, for the point, how will you communicate your manager's instruction to the team? You've got an example of a response that you might use here. So there is some dialogue that can help you. So if you're wanting to get started, you can use this dialogue. So Tom says, that huge ad will look terrible, Alice. It's going to ruin the whole look of my website. The colors aren't even on brand. And Alice says, you need to be practical, Tom. We need to work with our sponsor to get this company off the ground. That's the easiest way. It's a win-win solution. If you want, use that to get you started. So what we're wanting to see is you as the team leader in this scenario, communicating with those 2 guys, with Tom and Alice, and I'm looking for these, will particularly B through to F. So these are the things that we want to see evidence of. I want to see evidence of coaching and mentoring. So don't just jump in. I want to see that you're asking some questions. So this is for B. These are the things I want to see when you're doing this recording between yourself and trying, this is conflict resolution. Have a look in the materials for some strategies on conflict resolution, but this is what I want to see. I want to see evidence of coaching or mentoring. So don't just jump in by telling people what they're doing wrong. I want to see that you're gathering some information, so asking questions. Issue resolution. At some point, I want to see the issues out on the table. Strategies for gaining consensus. I want to actually see you trying to gain a consensus between Tom and Alice. So I want to see an example of that, or I want to see you trying to do that. Communication skills to explain the team goals, to address the conflict and build an environment of trust. Here, I just want to see some examples of some of the soft skills, maybe the tone of voice, maybe your ability to build rapport with those two people in question. So just, I just want to see a variation in some of those communication skills, whether it's the tone of voice you're using, whether it's the way that you're going about it. And your last point there is planning and organizational skills to keep the team on track and focused on work outcomes. What I'm looking for to see there is what's happening next. So whenever you provide feedback to somebody, it's always good to have some sort of follow-up mechanism. So what I want to see here is evidence that there's, okay, beautiful, this is our plan, this is the way we're going to be working going forward, this is what we've agreed to. That's what I want to see, but what happens next? I want you to explain, or have in that audio, what happens next. So try and make this, as it says here, a conversational, realistic script. So you might want to script this up. You might want your family and friends that join in, one of them will be Tom, one of them will be Alice. You might sort of word them up a little bit. It's not what they say, it's what you say. So you don't even have to get them to barely speak. I think they're helpful to have there so that it's just so that it becomes a practical exercise. Yes, so we're looking for a 3 to 5 minute audio recording. Please no videos, we don't need to see a video, just the audio. So there's an audio recorder that's actually built into this assignment. If you're having any difficulties with that, just speak to me and I can assist you with other ways to record your audio. 3 to 5 minutes. So find 2 people, family, friends, to sit in, to be Tom, to be Alice, and I just want to see you working your way through those issues, gaining consensus. But yeah, using a range of different sort of communication skills as well. And then the last part, once you've done that, is a 500-word reflection on basically these sort of questions. What are the challenges you faced? What worked? What didn't work? How did you communicate as a team and share your ideas? Did everybody contribute equally to the task? Okay, so some of these questions are referring to what was originally a group activity. So given that you're mostly going to be doing this by yourself, you may or may not be able to answer that. Did everybody equally contribute well? And this last one, did everybody agree on how to tackle the task? Because this is effectively covered in part 1, where you're consulting with myself as opposed to other students. But really, probably the best way to go about this individual reflection is reflect on what you've just done in part 2. Reflect on the audio that you've just done in part 2. Part 1, you're going to be consulting, you could be working with your trainer to identify the issues there, to answer those questions in part 1. We want you to reflect on how it felt. What were the challenges you might have had? What worked? What didn't work? What you might have been able to do better? But reflect on that audio that you've just recorded in part 2. So reflect on some of the communication skills. What could you have done or said that might have made things a little bit better? Were you able to gain a consensus? Was there a better way in reflecting on it and listening back to the audio and listening to yourself? Sometimes it's a great skill to listen to the way that you sound and to listen to yourself to make some adjustments. So have a listen to yourself and then make a comment on the way that it felt. Yeah. So talk about the way the activities made you think and feel, especially in relation to that second part, that audio recording. If you have any questions about this, guys, please do let me know. It might be a little bit confusing. You can do each of these parts by themselves. So if you want to just get started with the first part, you'll need to have a chat with your trainer in any case. Speak to me if you have any questions, but that's the 2 assessment tasks that you are required to do for this. You'll see that there's a discussion board. If that's still there on your screen, it might have been removed. There's no need to use that discussion board at all. So if you're wondering what that is, no need to worry. That shall be removed shortly. Thanks for joining us on this assessment support workshop session. Hope you've got something out of it, and we look forward to seeing you in the next subject. Thanks, guys.